Yes, so Bruce will be talking tonight about how to get started in nightscape photography. This is a very interesting topic. Um, he's sure to talk a lot about the equipment needed, and how you can use your own equipment just in your own backyard or own dark sky region. Uh, and he's sure to talk a lot about composition and the artistic side. Uh, sure to be really interesting talk. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Adirondack Sky Center. So we are situated in Tupper Lake, which, as you can see, we are surrounded by this ring of really intense light pollution. But the Adirondacks is this dark region right in the middle that's shielded from a lot of that. So we try to appreciate our night skies. We try to share that wonder and appreciation with others. That's really our largest part of our mission is to appreciate the universe, our place within it, and share that wonder with others. But then also part of our mission is preserving this dark skies. So we do a lot of environmental advocacy, a lot of environmental work, and we are currently trying to get Tupper Lake designated as an international dark sky community to preserve that resource, that dark, clear sky. Um, we have a large, extensive list of programs that draw people from all over. So one of those is our annual astrophotography conference. I wanted to highlight this because this is actually where I met Bruce, and I saw um, some of the recent photographs he's been taking, and they're really beautiful. So I'm excited to see more tonight. Uh, yeah, we just hosted ours this past September. We'll host one annually near the end of October, September, that time of year. Um, and yeah, this attracts people from all over for 3 nights of intensive stargazing instruction, and it's a really wonderful experience. And I think a lot of people get a lot of out of the community aspect. It's a really big community of fellow-minded people that you're spending 3 days with. So it's a really great time, and I was thrilled to be a part of it this year. Um, Additionally, we have last year in 2024, we hosted the Eclipse Totality in Tupper, a community-wide event that attracted over 15,000 people to our small community in the Adirondacks. Um, we broadcasted a live view of the eclipse as it happened. We were and we broadcasted that to NASA's official website. And that news feed just recently won an Emmy, which we are very grateful for, very proud of. Uh, and that Emmy just recently arrived in our downtown office, and it will be on display sometime shortly. Um, Excuse me. In addition to those kind of larger events, we also have we do a series of ongoing smaller events. We have a roll-off roof observatory with 4 permanently mounted high-powered telescopes. We open this up for free to the public, but really whenever there's a clear night that the observatory is available, the facilities are available. You can also rent out these facilities, and part of that you also get one of our astronomers will come and help you use the equipment, learn more about the night sky. So yeah, we hope it's public events, private events, field trips, bunch of really cool things at our observatory that's on 178 Big Wolf Road. We also have an astronomy hub. So this is on 68 Park Street. It has a lot of things going on. Right now, it has the Universal Visions astrophotography exhibit. So you can see images like this bubble nebula. This bubble nebula was taken by our own president, Seth McGowan. And you can see a whole host of other high quality, high resolution astrophotographs that are on permanent display. It's really beautiful. I recommend you check it out. We do ongoing school STEM visits. We do after school programs, a whole host of things for students in the area. And we have a series of upcoming events. These are really exciting. So first, next Saturday, December 13th at 4 p.m., we have an Ask Me Anything. And that is myself. So I study physics and I love answering questions. And I think that a lot of people have a ton of questions about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and uh, common explanations that I am not totally satisfied with the common explanations that you'll see in media or just from a quick Google search. I think that you need to go a little bit deeper. So yeah, this is an opportunity. Come with if you have any burning questions about quantum mechanics or just a general curiosity. This is a great experience to learn more. Some other upcoming events we have a
Your
new
mic is on.
portable Star Lab. So this is a portable blow up planetarium. We bring this to schools in the area, but we also keep it at our hub on 68 Park Street. And we are currently showing weekly uh shows of Mars, the Ultimate Voyage. So a 30-minute show on what it takes to get to Mars and why we want to go there so badly. Very interesting stuff. And that Mars will be playing through the month of December. So this week marks the start of a brand new, for the region, a brand new STEM project mentorship program. So we've partnered with Terra STEM Fairs. They host an annual science fair at Paul Smith College. And for the first time in the region, we will be offering mentorship to any students who are interested in competing in this science fair. We'll help them design their experiments, brainstorm their experiments, uh, design, conduct, and then present. So yes, we're basically offering ourselves as a resource to any interested, motivated students in the area. Um, so if you know any, have them check us out. So the mentorship program, it's ongoing, rolling. You can join at any time. It starts this Saturday and it goes until March, and you can join through the end of February. Um, yeah, this is the first time, and we're really excited to partner with a new organization and bring this new resource to the community. And then finally, I just want to mention when we're talking about upcoming events, upcoming programs, uh, one of our large long-term pushes is to build a large digital planetarium here in Tupper Lake on the same exact site as where our current observatory is. So it'll be a mix of a observatory plus a planetarium. Plus you'll see, so the planetarium is this dome on the right. There's this large event space that can house all sorts of events, uh, class activities. Students can come in, and it'll really be just a general STEM hub, uh, one of its kind in the Adirondacks and the larger region in general. Um, this is a brief image of the high scale, high resolution imagery that you can see inside a planetarium. All right. Without further ado, I will pass it off to Bruce Berger. So Bruce Berger is a professional photographer, an amateur astronomer with a deep passion for both his cameras and telescopes. His journey into night sky photography, began in 2009 after witnessing his first total solar eclipse in the naked eye Milky Way from a ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, igniting a lasting fascination with capturing the wonders of the celestial realm. Bruce is an active member and past president of the Amateur Telescope Makers of Boston, and for the past 13 years, he's been a co-director of two exciting annual astronomy and photography workshops held each summer in Midcoast, Maine. Bruce's thirst for astro adventure has taken him across the world in pursuit of solar eclipses, auroras, and pristine starry skies. With a wealth of experience in setting up, operating, and maintaining astro gear, he is always eager to share his extensive knowledge on equipment usage and upkeep. Notably, his custom-made telescope, which guests can utilize during workshops, has been recognized with several accolades at the prestigious Stellafane Convention. Bruce has contributed to projects funded by the National Geographic Society and contributes to the Life at Night Atlas Initiative, demonstrating his unwavering dedication to exploring and showcasing the captivating beauty of the night sky. Bruce lives in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, with his wife Donna, his two dogs, 10 telescopes, and almost as many cameras. We're really excited to have you here tonight, Bruce. Um, without further ado, I'll let you take it away.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for the intro. I'll have to admit, ChatGPT helped me write that. It maybe used a few too many superlatives, but thank you very much anyways. So I became interested in night sky photography. Let me get the right one here. Okay. Am I sharing the right one? No, I'm not. Simon or Seth? Am I
It says,
sharing?
why do
Yeah,
we need to track?
you want
Am I?
to you want to put it in presentation mode, or start the presentation, Bruce.
I am in presentation mode, so hold on. It was just the wrong screen.
Okay,
So Microsoft PowerPoint, let's try this one.
bingo.
That looks like it's the one. Okay. Okay. Um, Back in 2009, I was on a solar eclipse cruise from out of China, and a friend, uh, Kelly Beatty from Sky and Telescope magazine, introduced me to this young photographer from Iran, and uh, and Babak Tafreshi and I wound up becoming very, very good friends, very close friends to this day. He lives close to me now in Massachusetts, and we have been through a lot of adventures together. My very, very first nightscape photograph, I don't have it here with me, but was me taking a photograph of Babak on the bow of that ship in the middle of the Pacific. It was a charter cruise, so they got to shut off all the lighting on this huge ship, Costa Classica. They shut off all the lighting except the necessary navigation lights, and the sky was clear and the Milky Way was going. And I'm standing there with a pair of binoculars, and it was just a wonderful shot. And I just caught that fever. And uh, I hope that I've come a long way since then. This particular shot was, if you look at the cloudy sky, there's actually a lunar eclipse up there. That was in May of 2022. It's the Wilmette River or Wilmette Bridge in Portland, Oregon. I did capture out of 1,100 still frames in this time lapse. I did capture two that actually had the lunar eclipse in them, but I'm not showing it here. I want to talk a little bit about just how this astrophotography thing got going. It was actually the daguerreotype uh, invented in around 1839. It was unveiled at a meeting of the French Academy of Art and Science. Edgar Allan Poe wrote an essay on it the following year. And in 1839, he took the first photograph of the moon, Daguerre did, but it was destroyed in a fire a couple of months later. In 1852, John Adams Whipple took the oldest surviving photograph of the moon, which you see here on the left, through the Great Refractor at Harvard University. And that is the daguerreotype there on the right. There's a picture of Mr. Whipple and the Harvard College Observatory Great Refractor. This one was taken in Königsberg, Prussia, which is now part of Russia, and this was a solar eclipse in 1851, the first correctly exposed photograph of the eclipse using the daguerreotype process. And here's a couple more: partial eclipse of the sun, 1851, four views of the solar eclipse. These are both from the Harvard University collection. And now let's just get into it. So we have to go through some definitions so that you can get the full or get a better understanding of what we're talking about. I just want to go through some terms for members of my photography club. This is probably, old hat, but I'm sure we've got, out of the many people in the audience, this is going to be new stuff. Some of this stuff was new to me when I first wrote this presentation about 5 years ago. So focal length. The focal length, I used to think the focal length, like when you're buying an a 24 millimeter scope lens, I used to think that was the diameter of the lens until I got a 24 millimeter lens that wasn't. it turns out that 24 millimeters is actually the distance between the plane of the sensor, whether it be film in the old days or your CCD or CMOS sensor, and the optical center of the lens when the lens is focused at infinity. So your 24 millimeter lens, because of, as you see in the diagram, the further away point B is from point C, the narrower your field or angle of view is going to be. Okay, focal length, distance in millimeters between the sensor and the optical center. The focal length, here's a diagram that quickly shows what we've just been talking about. We go from the left, a 400 millimeter lens has about a 6-degree field of view, and the field of view increases as the focal length decreases. And something else when we say, okay, well, I'm looking at the sky or I'm looking at this thing, what is 25 degrees? And here's a quick pointer. Those two fingers, all these are at arm length. If you put your two fingers out or you put your hand out at arm's length at the 25 degrees and you stick your thumb and your pinky out as far as you can, that's about 25 degrees. At the other end of the spectrum, your pinky alone is about 1 degree. Okay. For reference, the moon and the sun are about 1/2 a degree. And I've used this quite often when I'm trying to compose a shot. What lens should I use? Or where should I stand? Or how far away? Or this has been very handy. By the way, this is going to, as Simon said, this is going to be available on the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to get this or grab screenshots or go ahead and do whatever you need. I also want to talk about crop sensor. So some modern day cameras are crop sensor or full frame. A full frame, is indicated in the red outline of this drawing, is the equivalent of a 35 millimeter film. The old film, 35 millimeter. That sensor is about the same size. A crop sensor uses a smaller sensor. It crops the image, if you will. And you can see that you have a crop factor for a Nikon crop. Now, this is for a crop sensor camera only, because a full frame Nikon will still have this red outline, the full frame. Full frame of any of these will still have that full frame. But for a Nikon crop sensor camera or a Sony Alpha, Fuji X, you've got a 1.5 time crop factor. We call it a focal length multiplier or a crop factor. For a Micro Four Thirds, you're going to have that green, and for the Canon, it's a 1.6 crop factor or for focal length multiplier. Where does this come in? Well, if I have a crop sensor camera and I'm putting a lens on it that's let me make it easy for myself. I'm putting a lens on that is say a 50 millimeter lens, and I'm using a Nikon camera. I'm on a Nikon a crop sensor Nikon camera. I put a 50 millimeter lens on it. The effective focal length of that is going to be 50 millimeters times 1.5 or 75 millimeters. Okay, this is crop sensor. If anybody's got questions, you can go ahead and post them. And Simon, if you want to interrupt me, if it seems urgent, go right ahead and do that. Because I do not have my chat window open. Okay. The next definition we're going to, a natural perspective. So I often have this question asked of me, what does the eye see? Well, the eye, it's interesting. The eye, it's accepted that this natural perspective is about 50 degrees, somewhere between 40 and 60 degrees. Now, the eyes can see a lot wider than that. In fact, 120, 150 degrees per eye, but they can only detect movement on the outer parts of that. In the center core, which is somewhere between 30 and 60 degrees, that's where you get your real vision. When you've got two eyes overlapping, it's generally accepted that your central vision or your natural perspective is right around 50 degrees. I want to talk a little bit about aperture. So this is confusing for some people that are new at it because the smaller number is the bigger aperture. Aperture is like the iris or the pupil in your eye. When it's big, as the left here, I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see my pointer on the left side. F2, you've got a big aperture. A lot of light is getting through, whether it's your eye or your camera lens to the sensor, a lot of light's getting through. On the other end of it, a smaller aperture, say you're in a bright light outside, your pupil of your eye is going to close down. The same thing with a small aperture. Not as much light is going to get through that smaller aperture. Now, of course, if we're doing photographs at night, we want to try to have as big of aperture as practically possible, with some exceptions. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is depth of field. This was a lesson hard learned by me. In November 2019, my friend Bobak and I were on a hunt. There was, from our part of the country, the planet Mercury was going to transit the surface of the sun. And with a proper filter, we'd be able to see and photograph that. Well, it was cloudy as heck, and we were driving and driving. As usual, Bobak is sitting in the passenger seat with weather maps and thing on his smartphone, and I'm driving, and he's telling me go east, go west, go north, go south, because we're looking for a clear sky. We happened to drive through or towards Providence, Rhode Island, when we spotted this tower, the State House in Providence, and on top of that tower is this statue called the Independent Man. The Independent Man is about 285 feet off the ground, and we were standing about almost 3/4 of a mile away. Now, Bobak and I were standing right next to each other. The difference, the color difference in the picture is just because of the filter we were using to filter out the sunlight. I was using a white light filter, and he was using a glass filter. But you'll notice my picture on the left, the Independent Man is out of focus, but the sun is in perfect focus and Mercury's in perfect focus. If we look at Bobak's photo, we see that both of them are in focus. And I learned a lesson here. I learned about things like hyperfocal distance and depth of field, and these are terms which you can look up later. We'll get into it a little bit in the next slide. If I had closed down my aperture more, I was probably wide open here and focused on the sun, on the outline of the sun. If I had closed my aperture down more and focused in a little bit closer, then like Bobak's picture, both the statue and the sun would have been in focus. So I used this. This was a lesson learned. Not afraid to make mistakes. Hyperfocal distance is a little more complicated, certainly complicated to figure out. You can do the math, but there's some tools like PhotoPills, Planet, or Photographers Ephemeris that'll do it. What this hyperfocal distance is, it's the distance to which, if you focus at half of that distance, then from that point on to infinity, you should have a reasonable focus. And I highlighted, I was using a 580 millimeter lens at f6.3. Was actually one of my telescopes with my camera on it. And you can see that that hyperfocal distance was about 1.25 miles away. Not quite. Yeah, about 1.25 miles away. So if I had focused directly on that tower, on the statue itself, is what it's telling me. If I had focused directly on the statue itself, then the statue and the sun and Mercury should have been in focus. All right. And then another thing when we're doing nighttime photography with stars involved, you got to remember that the Earth is rotating. Okay, the Earth rotates 15 degrees every hour. Okay, it works out to, I'm sorry, when we're taking a longer exposure photograph from a stationary tripod, There's a rough formula that we can use. We call it the 300 rule. If you have a higher resolution camera, one of my cameras is a 45 megapixel, I have to make this the 200 rule. But what happens is if we take 300 divided by the crop factor times the focal length, for example, I took that photograph with a Canon 6D. It's a full frame. I had a 24 millimeter lens. If I take 300 divided by 1 times 24, that means that my maximum exposure, if I was taking pictures of the stars rotating as the Earth was rotating, would be about 12 seconds. Anything beyond that, I'm going to get streaking stars. If I had a crop sensor camera, Canon crop sensor, I'd do the same formula, but in this case, instead of the crop factor being 1, it would be 1.6, and my maximum exposure would be around 8 seconds if I didn't want to get any streaking. The Nikon D3500, which is an APS-C crop sensor camera with a 24 millimeter lens, the crop factor there is 1.5. So we're going to get about 8.3 seconds, about an 8-second exposure. We'll see another slide a little bit later on when we talk about star trackers, about why this is important. All right. So what kind of gear is ideal for doing this type of photography? Well, you want a camera, DSLR or mirrorless camera. You'd like to get something in the 20 to 25, 30 megapixel. That's ideal. If you get a camera with more megapixels, for instance, I have a Canon R5 that's got 45 megapixels. It's the same size sensor, so the pixels are smaller in the higher resolution camera. When the pixels are smaller, they can collect less light, or it takes them longer to collect the same amount of light. So if you're trying to do nighttime photography with stars involved and keep your exposure to a minimum, you're better off having something with a larger pixel, the 20 to 30 megapixel. You want to look up how well your camera handles low light. The modern cameras, the new stuff is coming off is really super, but some of the older cameras have a lot of noise in them when there's not a lot of signal compared to the darkness. It's a signal to noise ratio. So you can look up on some of the websites or forums about how does this camera handle low level light. You want manual controls because not many cameras will do a decent nighttime photograph set on automatic. You need to be able to control your aperture. You need to be able to control your shutter speed. And you need to be able to control the sensitivity or the ISO of your camera. You want an interchangeable lens just for convenience so that you can compose different shots using the same camera. And you need an interchangeable battery and memory card. My very first camera was a Minolta, and it came with, I think, a 8 megabyte chip. It was a long, long time ago, but it didn't have it had a rechargeable battery, but the battery didn't come out. So if I was out there, for instance, shooting nighttime photography and trying to leave the shutter open for a while, the battery would have got depleted pretty quickly. So you want an interchangeable battery on your camera, and you want spare batteries with you, and you want a memory card, and you want spare memory cards. Here's some popular low light photography cameras. I updated this a couple of weeks ago. Some different price ranges, and these do not include used cameras. These are all new prices. I use a Canon 6D. I also have Canon R6. The R6 and the R5 are both mirrorless cameras. The Canon 6D is a DSLR. It has a mirror in it. I know a little bit about the a little bit about the Nikon cameras and a little less than that of the Sony cameras. Okay, popular lenses. So you like a prime wide angle lens. Prime means it's not a zoom lens. It has a primary focal length that's fixed. Okay. And something like a 14 millimeter f1.8, remember the 1.8 is a small number, so it's a big aperture, a 20 millimeter or a 24 millimeter. You can also get some low-cost manual lenses if you don't want to go with the Canon or the Nikon or the Sony. They tend to be a little pricey, especially for starting out. You might want to consider some of these like an Irix or a Laowa or Rokinon. I have a couple of Rokinon lenses still from when I started this back in 2009, 2010. Um, in fact, mine's a Samyang, and they had a different name, the same company, same manufacturer, but they had a different name even back then, 15 years ago. You could also use a short range wide angle zoom, 14 to 24 millimeter, 16 to 35, or 15 to 30, as long as uh, your F ratio is on the lower side. You want a fast lens. Your ideal is a fast lens with a wide open aperture of at least f2.8. You can also use telephoto lenses for deep sky photography or wider field. They tend, unless you're spending a lot of money, they tend to be not as fast, meaning the F ratio is not 2.8, tend to be higher. But if you're using a star tracker, which is going to follow the stars around, again, we'll talk about that in a little while, then those are pretty useful for deep sky or even for combining some deep sky with some landscape features when the conditions are right. 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter, 85, 135, they're all also very useful if you already own any of these. I can't stress how much attention you should spend or give to your tripod. I've been running workshops for 11, 12. This summer will be our 12th year, teaching people how to do nightscape photography at Maine, up in Maine at the Maine Astronomy Retreat and the Maine Stargazing and Photography Retreat, two events that I've been putting on for a number of years up there. And people show up and they might have a nice camera and whatever, but they didn't have any money left over for the tripod, so they went to Walmart. I'm sorry, Walmart. They went to a department store and they bought a tripod that would, when they actually brought it out in the field, it would just barely hold up their camera. It wasn't steady at all. In fact, the clicking of the shutter was enough to induce shake in their camera. So you want a comfortable working height. You want something that you can use when you're standing up or bring a chair. You don't want to be laying or lying down or whatever, unless you need that for composing the shot. But you want a comfortable height. You want it light enough so you can carry it into the field. It's very seldom that I'm able just to park my car somewhere and start taking photos. I'm hiking. I'm hiking all over the place. In Iceland, we would hike 2 to 3 to 4 miles to our photography site sometimes. An optional rock bag or a weight to hang from the tripod to increase stability. So some tripods will have a, whoops, some tripods will have, sorry, can't do that. Some tripods will have a hook around the center where you can attach a weight. Sometimes I would hang my camera bag. Sometimes I would bring an empty gallon water jug, a milk jug, but then fill it up or even fill it up with rocks. Or for not too much money at photo supply places like B&H or Hunt's, you can buy something called a rock bag that attaches to the tripod legs. Just stay away from those lightest, lowest cost models. I usually bring 5 or 6 tripods with me to my workshops, and I wound up lending most of them out because the people show up with flimsy tripods. Also, you want a spare battery, extra memory cards. You want a remote shutter and or intervalometer. You may be able to use the intervalometer that might be built into your camera. That's fine. You do not want to be pushing the shutter button when you're trying to take a long exposure at night because you'll shake the camera. You shake the camera. So you definitely want a remote shutter. And in some cases, you might want a star tracker. We'll talk about that. This is a star tracker on the right there. And that's one type. And we'll talk about that. Any questions, Simon?
No, no questions. We have a comment from Jennifer Stowe that Peak Design tripods are great.
They certainly are. They certainly are. I got my first Gitzo tripod this year, and it's amazing. It's so rigid. I have Benro, Gitzo, Manfrotto. Smart Rig is my small lightweight scope. I won't put a big lens on it, but it's really nice. And I have a couple of very low to the ground tripods. Frequently, when I go out on a shoot, especially when I'm with other people, I'll set up a few cameras, and sometimes I'll even set some cameras on some very low tripods and hide them in the bushes somewhere and let them go on time lapse and come back for them in the morning. I guess I'm a trusting soul, but I've gotten some very interesting shots that way. Very cool. All right. So, how do you set it up? Where do you start? Let's talk about some ideal settings. So, as I said before, you want to set your camera from manual mode. You want your exposure is going to be somewhere in the 5 to 10 second range. These are all rough. Everybody's camera is different. Your situation is going to be different. Where you are is going to be different. The amount of light, ambient light in your area, light pollution, how dark it is, what your target is. All these things are going to affect every one of these settings. Your aperture is going to be about 2.8. In general, you want it pretty wide, but I'll give you a hint. If you have a very fast lens like a 1.4 or 1.8, and you're shooting long exposure night stuff on a wide, you're going to find out that you're getting some coma or some distortion around the outsides of your shot. Bringing that f1.4 1.8 lens out to 2.8 is going to take care of most of that coma, and it won't be as annoying. Your ISO, which I only mentioned in passing, your ISO is it's sensitivity. It's difficult. It used to be called ASA, and it was film speed, and it was how fast could that film grab photons and expose them onto the film. Nowadays, it's all electronic. They use ISO, a range of somewhere between 1600 and 3200. Your white balance should generally be cloudy or around 6000 K. Sometimes, though, I might shoot at 4200. Again, it's how, you have to adapt to the conditions. But if you start with these and work with them and change one thing at a time, you'll eventually get better. I also like to shoot raw. Now, what raw means is when you shoot a picture, generally, say with your smartphone, it's giving you a compressed image. It might be a JPEG or an HEIF, which is another compression method that Apple uses. In order for it to compress that picture, it has to get rid of a bunch of information. And when we're doing especially sky pictures, there's a lot of subtle detail in there at night that we want to try to bring out. If we take a raw image, all of the image, all the raw data is in that photo, and later on we can use a post-processing program, something like Photoshop or Lightroom, or there are many other ones out there, to bring out those details from the raw. And then later on, when we go to post it on Instagram or whatever, or show your friends, you can then save that as a JPEG, but you will not have, generally, you wouldn't have lost that all the information that's in your shot. Okay, big question. How do you focus in the dark if you can't see? There's some tricks to it, and I can do it without even thinking about it anymore, and you'll get there too if you keep up with it. You start with your lens focus to the infinity mark. On your camera, you turn on live view. So you're seeing through the viewfinder or the screen in the back of your camera. You're seeing your view. You want to temporarily increase your ISO really high because most cameras will try to simulate what the photograph looks like in the viewfinder. So if you temporarily turn your ISO up to 6400 or 128,000 or whatever it is, and then temporarily increase your exposure, then the processor in the camera is going to do its best to show you what that your photograph would look like. It's not going to do a very good job, but what it is going to do is it's going to show you stars in the finder. You want to point that finder and you want to center it onto a bright star. You don't want to focus on a star that's on the uh, fringes of your frame, partly because of the coma we talked about before. You want to magnify your screen and you want to keep turning your focus ring until that bright star is focused, but you're not done. Because as you come to perfect focus, the faint stars are going to start appearing in the finder, and it's really these fainter stars that you want to focus on. Take, take some test shots, bring your ISO and your shutter speed back to where you wanted it, to your ideal settings. Take some test shots, look at them through your finder or your laptop or whatever you have with you, magnified view. Really check your focus carefully. As anybody that's done a lot of photography knows, there's nothing more frustrating than bringing your camera home and finding out that most of your shots were out of focus because you didn't pay attention. Another thing I found is that, especially in the time of year where there's a big temperature change between daytime and night, your camera will get colder and your focus will shift slightly. So it pays to recheck your focus as the night goes on. Remember before you start shooting to reset your exposure, reset your ISO, and start shooting. And again, do some more test shots. I don't have a lot on composition here. Nightscape generally includes something in a landscape and something in a photograph. What we see in this photo, it's really tough to see, but that is the planet Venus. No, yep, Venus. Sorry, that is the planet Saturn up on the upper right, and the very slight 1 day old moon here in the lower in the branches. I'm going to talk about these star trackers now. I've mentioned it a couple of times. Some of you know what they are. Some of you have them. Some of you are saying, what the heck is it? So the Earth spins 360 degrees every day, makes one revolution just about every day, 15 degrees an hour, a quarter of a degree every minute, 42 thousandths of a degree, excuse me, or 15 arc seconds every second. So in 20 seconds, the sky is moving about 9/100ths of a degree or 302 arc seconds. With a full frame 20 megapixel camera with a 24 millimeter lens, this is about 7 pixels on your camera. Hard to imagine. Let's take a look. Let's take a closer look at that. Here's a photograph I took from Groton, Massachusetts of the Orion, constellation Orion here. Heads, the Orion's belt over here, and the Orion Nebula over here. I did this with a Canon 6D full frame camera with a 24 millimeter f1.4 lens. It was a 21-second exposure at ISO 1600. It was a fixed tripod, no star tracker. Let's magnify this up a little bit and see what we got. You can see here that we've got very obvious streaks in our stars. Now, let me stop here for a minute and ask you, what are you going to use the photograph for that you're taking? Are you going to post on Instagram so it's going to be on somebody's phone or maybe tablet? Or are you going to blow this thing up to a poster, a 24 by 36 poster, or maybe even something bigger? How fussy do you need to be with these star streaks? It looks pretty good. This one did look pretty good as a Facebook post. But had I gone any further, it wouldn't have. Now let's look in a little further at this. And we see that what we've done is our star has moved about 7 pixels while during the 21 seconds that this camera shutter was open. So I don't want those, not for my big poster that I want to hang on the wall. I don't want those. How am I going to fix it? Well, I want a star tracker. And what a star tracker does is you polar align it. Interestingly enough, Seth, this is the error in my presentation that you said I was bound to find because I'm missing a slide here with a picture of my star tracker. So star trackers come in different shapes and forms, but basically they sit on top of a tripod and you polar align them. So here in the Northern Hemisphere, if we were to take a long exposure, like the one behind this one, actually, let me go back here. Well, this here is where Polaris is, right in the center. And the Earth is spinning. If we drew an imaginary line between the South Pole and the North Pole and extended it north out into the sky, you come within a couple of degrees of hitting the star Polaris, which is right here. So what we want to do is we want to line our star tracker up with this, and the star tracker has a motor in it, and it's going to turn at the same rate that the Earth is turning, but in the opposite direction. This means, and I put my camera on top of it, I leave it polar aligned, but I have a ball mount on the top of, underneath my camera so that I can aim my camera anywhere in the sky. And as long as that tracker is tracking my object I'm looking at, whether it be a star or a nebula or a galaxy or whatever it is, they should stay relatively still. The more accurate you do the polar alignment, the better results you'll have. Okay, I wanted to share some of the photographs I've taken. I've taken. This was one of my earlier photographs. It's from Deer Island, which is used to be a sewage treatment, or it is a sewage treatment plant. It used to be a prison in Boston Harbor. And this is Graves Light. I don't suppose you guys can see that. Okay. This is Graves Lighthouse, and that was about 7 miles away, I believe. Pretty cool shot of the full moon and Graves Light. And there's a bird flying around in there too that didn't reproduce too well in this shot. Let's see. This is a little time-lapse video I took. This is up at our retreat in Maine. Let's see if I can get this going. It's a little jerky here, but you can see the pillars of the Aurora flashing across the sky, as well as a couple of airplanes and a lot of satellites. This is composed, so that was 5 seconds. No, that was 10 seconds. Yeah, so that's about 300 single shots in order to make this one. This is a shot over Echo Lake. No, this is White Lake State Park, Tamworth, New Hampshire. It was a beautiful, beautiful Milky Way. That's Venus in the sky, lower down here. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse or not. But beautiful Milky Way shot. This is single shot. I didn't mention that. You can also do composite shots where you're tracking the sky, but your landscape feature you're doing in a separate shot, and then you put them together in a program like Photoshop later on. All of my shots are single shots. Every one that you see here, unless I tell you different. Here's that same Milky Way in Magdalena, New Mexico. This was July 4th, 2021. I retired in 2021, and my wife and I bought a camper, and we traveled across the country. We have a friend that lives in this little 800-person town, Magdalena, New Mexico, a friend from the Boston area named John Briggs. And John invited us to stay on his ranch. He actually had a trailer hookup. And it was a beautiful night. As you can see, the Milky Way was great. Interestingly enough, this in the center, just over the horizon, that bright spot, those are actually fireworks going off because this is July 4th evening, and this puffy cloud in the front is smoke coming from that. One of my favorite shots from Iceland. I've been to Iceland 2 times. I'm an instructor on a tour there that's run by Barbara Tefreshi and a couple of folks in Iceland. This is the Hotel Ranga. It's a beautiful place, about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours out of um, southeast of Reykjavik. It's a nice drive. The nice thing about this is that this shot was happening with my camera. The remote was in my hand, and I was in a hot tub. So this was just awesome. I also had another camera, my Canon 6D, which was modified for astronomy with a fisheye lens in the front of the hotel in the parking lot. And sometime around 2:30 in the morning, somebody backed into it with a car and smashed my camera. But this curtain of an aurora was just beautiful. And to be able to do this while you're basically sitting in a hot tub, it was just amazing. Iceland is amazing. If you go during the equinox in the kind of October, September, October, or in the March, April timeframe. The nights are still short enough that you're going to get some nights are still long enough that you're going to get aurora like this, and it was absolutely beautiful. I think I got a couple. Yeah, this is another aurora shot. This was from 2023. These are all glaciers. My friend Mike Drewer there on the lower left, and it was amazing. This is not. I mean, this was. I didn't enhance the color of this a lot. This is what we saw. Now, your camera during an aurora, your camera's a lot more sensitive, of course, so you're not seeing such vivid color. But when it's really, really strong, like it was this night, you could see the color. But a camera really brings it out, and it's absolutely amazing. This one is special, and it was from 2024 or 2023, and I wasn't on this trip to Alaska. This is called Arctic Henge, and it's in northern Iceland. And this particular photo, not this particular photograph, but one that I'm going to show you, I'm going to play a video here, actually was on NASA Astronomy Picture of the Day. Not taken with this camera. This is
Speed is slow.
I think you should be able to hear Bobak talking.
No, I think it's better to pack and go to the second location.
He's telling everybody pack up, time to go to another location.
Yeah, start to pack, please.
And here it goes. All of a sudden, boom! A fireball went across the sky. And it was absolutely amazing. Boom. And then for the longest period of time, a smoke trail remained, just floated across the sky.
Okay, flashlight.
And this is my friend Cyber Helgi Bragason, who is talking to the Icelandic Meteorological Society and the television station to explain what's going on. Apparently, they called him right away, and that's part of his job. He's kind of like a Neil deGrasse Tyson of Iceland. All right. And another video. This is our astronomy retreat taken in Washington, Maine. We've got this little hut which we call our pavilion, where we serve food all night. It's great. It's a 6-night, 7-day private cabin type astronomy retreat. You bring your gear or your cameras, your astronomy telescopes and stuff. You can leave it set up all week. We serve food all night, and I took another time lapse here. Look at all those satellites. Okay. I hope that some of you were lucky enough a couple of weeks ago to catch the aurora resulting from this huge coronal mass ejection from the sun. I went out that night to the Haystack Observatory in Westford, Massachusetts. I have a project that I'm working on with them to do night photography with all of these radio telescopes. And it was a perfect night. Both of these shots are cell phone shots. I only had one camera with me that night, besides the iPhone. So these are just iPhone shots of that night. And the aurora was absolutely fantastic. This one was from the Astrophotography Retreat at the Adirondack Sky Center just this past year. I learned so much. I do nightscape photography. I've been doing it for a while. I have most of the components, always had most of the components to do deep sky, and I decided I wanted to try it. I've got three mirrorless or DSLR cameras that fit right on a telescope, or I have lenses that go up to 1,000 millimeters. So it's a perfect thing for me to try something different. This particular one, I got photobombed, and some of you might guess that that's an airplane passing through the galaxy, Andromeda Galaxy. It was a bit of a surprise. Unfortunately, it was only one frame out of about 60 that I took. And when I left this frame out, then this was the result. And thank you very much, Seth and Simon and everybody else at the Sky Center, because I've never done anything this beautiful. It's really, really pretty. Some other shots just kind of grabbing, and actually this one's all from there. This one's also from Tupper Lake. That is the lake. And we were staying at a place appropriately named the Sunset Motel. And I set up a time-lapse camera while we were out at the observatory. I had a time-lapse camera in the back of the hotel running all night. But this particular shot of the sunset was just absolutely amazing. And it's an amazing area. There's another sunset picture taken just down the street from my house. And this was an iPhone picture. I just kind of parted the weeds in between I think the interior lights of the car was shining on these bushes. You can get beauty anywhere. This next shot, which is actually my background shot, you might have been wondering what it is. This is an aurora. This was May of last year, May 10th. We had another super big and powerful coronal mass ejection that hit us. I was at the Nubble Lighthouse in York, Maine. I didn't include any of the other shots. This particular one was with an 8mm fisheye lens. And this was another one of those kind of naked eye aurora. It was just really, really beautiful. This was taken in Chatham, Massachusetts, down in Cape Cod. The left one here, in fact, that's my colleague Babak Tafreshi on he's the photographer on the left photograph. He's the photographer on the right. And I actually asked him to turn his viewfinder on to illuminate his face, both of those guys. So this is Washington Lake in Washington, Maine. And we got the Milky Way up there and two guys on the dock, and they're getting ready to do some shots. On the right, I'm very proud that I got to take part with my colleague Babak Tafreshi, pictured here, in a National Geographic Society project called Life at Night. The website is nightatlas.org. And there's Babak pointing at the sky. It's a posed picture, but he's pointing at the sky. The Milky Way's in the background with some clouds. We're on a beach. We're actually doing research on sea turtles. We were out there at night watching the mama sea turtles come in out of the water and dig holes and lay their eggs. And then we come back and see to a different beach or a different part, and we'd see baby hatchlings coming out, 50 to 75 hatchlings coming out of a hole and making their way to the ocean. The two women here are both biologists with the la, 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 Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. And they were out there. We're not allowed to handle turtles or be close to them without people from one of the authorized agencies. And this was in Sanibel Island. We also did part of this project at the Loggerhead Marine Life Center in Juno Beach, Florida, and some more in Boca Raton at the Gumbo Limbo Nature Center. Got to meet the world's premier turtle biologists in a couple of different places. A very exciting project, and I got to use my photography skills. What I do on these projects, not so much the prime photography, but I'm kind of doing the behind the scenes work. And some of my behind the scenes work is should be on the Life at Night Atlas website. Some of it has been also published, and I'm very happy about that. Let's see what else we got. So a few of the people from the Neshoba Valley Photo Club that are here might recognize this shot. Back a couple of months ago, we went to Fan Pier in Boston, and actually in back of me, as I'm taking the picture earlier in the evening, in back of me, the moon was rising. And Logan Airport was there, and I really, really wanted to get a picture of an airplane flying through the moon as it was rising. Well, this big orange mass up in the sky is all the reflected light pollution from the city. It was all cloudy, and there was no moon that we could see. And I didn't get that, but turning the camera around and getting shots like this was just amazing. So you don't necessarily need stars to do nightscape. This is landscape at night. Still there. Going back to the project that I'm doing, this is one of Lincoln Laboratories called the Millstone Radar. And very, very difficult to photograph to get to get stars in the background because they have no concept whatsoever about what light pollution is. The observatory at the top of the hill, the Haystack Observatory, has a beautiful golf ball style dome. And even at midnight, it's lit up like a shopping mall parking lot during Christmas. So we've been working with it on that, but this particular antenna is used for tracking satellites, both ours and theirs, and other types of space debris. That about wraps up my presentation. I do want to make mention, I mentioned a couple of times about these workshops that I do. So the Maine Stargazing and Photography Retreat is something that Babak Tafreshi and I started up about 6 years ago. I think this will be our 7th summer. It's an all-inclusive week of stargazing and nightscape photography. We've got all kinds of things to do. We're on a lake. You can take boats and kayaks. You can go swimming. We have private cabins. It's 1 week, 6 nights, 7 days. All your meals are included. Any astronomers that are out there from MatMob, if you've been to a star party, you know it's usually sleeping in a tent and eating off a food truck. We're nothing like that. Most of our food is either grown on the premises or it comes from within 10 or 20 miles of the premises. Everything is cooked fresh. So this coming year from next year, from August 31st to September 6th, is the Stargazing and Photography Retreat. It's a lot of photography. People come at all levels. Some people have been there a few times. Some people come and just say, well, I really, I rented a camera. I want to try it. And we deal with all levels. And there's a lot of one-on-one. We limit the participation to about 20 to 25 participants. And we've got 3 instructors. The other one is the Maine Astronomy Retreat. This coming summer, it'll be from September 7th to the 13th. And our motto from the very beginning is this is a vacation for you and your telescope. You don't need to bring a tent or a sleeping bag or eat so-so food. It's private cabins, real beds, hot showers, electricity, chef-prepared food. For this particular one, there's not as much of a one-on-one, so we allow about 45 people there, and everything's included in the tuition. Feel free to use your smartphone or your smart device to scan those QR codes, and you get more information on either one of the programs. That about wraps up my talk. This is what the back of my car looks like during a photo shoot. And this wasn't even all of it because there was a lot of it set up. This was during the total solar eclipse done in last year. Total solar eclipse. We're in San Antonio, Texas, part of the ABC News Eclipse Across America uh, program. And our eclipse across America was clouds, except for a very, very brief time during totality. We also did a project for the Life at Night program for Nat Geo on bats. We wanted to see what the cave bats would do when during an eclipse. It turns out that they're so far in the cave that there's no temperature difference or light difference, so they stay in the cave. Thank you all very much. My contact information is below. As Simon said, this is going to be eventually posted on the YouTube channel, and you all receive notice. I've also promised Seth to provide all the links that I've had in here and links to more, and they'll post that information along in the letter that you get or the email that you get. Again, thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'm going to stop my presentation. And hey, Simon, I'm going to stop my presentation and open up the chat window in case there is anything.
Yeah, thank you so much. A question came in just at the end.
Anything that you, in particular, you do in post-processing? Paul, that's a short question with a really, really long answer. Everything depends on what you got. I do all of my post-processing, probably 95% of it in Lightroom. Um, I have some filters, if you will, that help me accentuate the night sky, the Milky Way, if that's what we're doing. I use a lot of masking. Um, and if you want to ask a more specific question, I'll try to give a more specific answer. Jennifer Stowe, Sky Tracker recommendations. Well, my favorite Sky Tracker is no longer made, unfortunately. It's called the Astro Tracker. It was made in England. And if any old timers in here remember a barn door tracker, it's kind of a barn door tracker on steroids. It will track the stars for about 2 hours. Same thing as I said before, you have to polar align it. And then it's got a little motor in it. You put your camera up on top of it and it stays. I also have an Ioptron Sky Guider, and that's a good one. Sky Watcher makes a couple of them. There's a company called Move Shoot Move who advertises heavily. If you're on social media and I think if you've ever searched for camera or telescope or something, then Move Shoot Move commercials are going to pop up on your social media. I haven't tried one, but I know some people that use it. Sorry, Mark, if you took that personally. Um, um, he commented on the old timer. So, and as Farouk says, the Move Shoot Move is lightweight, so you're not going to put a 200 millimeter lens on it and things like that. It's going to overload you. The other one that's used is the Polari from Vixen. Benro makes one called Polaris. These are all good ones, and the prices range from a few $100s to a couple of $1,000s. Any more questions? I don't see any more. Again, thanks everybody so much for this opportunity. I was a little nervous. I've actually given this many times to a live audience, but I haven't given this to a to a Zoom. I couldn't picture the audience naked to make myself less nervous. So thank you again. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you, Bruce. It It was really wonderful to have you. I don't think that you could see while you were presenting, but there were a lot of reactions going, a lot of hearts and like that clapping emotion, or emoji.
What was
Um,
it? A crap? Oh,
clap,
clapping. I thought you said something else.
little
Sorry.
like hearts. No, no, no. Yeah, okay. That's a better example. They were going on throughout your presentation, but I don't think you would be able to see them. But yeah, thank you so much for the talk.
All right.
Um,
Natalie just did one. Yeah. Thanks, Natalie. Thanks, Jim. All right.
um, yeah, with that, we're gonna wrap up tonight's activity, tonight's presentation. Thank you everybody for joining us.